Yo, it's Quinster Prince. I'm back. I know it's been like a week since I reacted to some, but I'm back. I'm back on the grind. Let's do it. Reacting to why can't characters just talk normally? I mean, it's acting. I'm playing. Let's see. Let's get into it though.
A group of 9-year-olds have been forcefully taken from their homes, dragged through an active war zone, and
Really?
finally find refuge in a strange man's orphanage. However, one of them wakes up and informs them that the man they all trust
He's talking about Stranger Things. So if you haven't watched Stranger Things yet, which if you haven't at this point, you probably gonna watch like 20 years later. But if you haven't, you should watch it. It's cool. Cool little
is
show.
actually incredibly dangerous. Pretty dark
What just what just happened?
concept, right? That's a lot for anyone to go through, let alone a 9-year-old. I'd imagine this would be a pretty intense and dramatic scene, right?
Okay.
He kidnapped us! He's trying to destroy the world, Holly. Mr. Whatsit has told us everything. Those are lies. Evil, nasty.
I ain't gonna lie, some of the in last season of Stranger Things, some of the characters just started getting annoying to me. Like it started getting unbearable to the point where I'm just like, can we just finish? Can we just wrap this up, bro? Like some characters didn't deserve screen. I hate when shows give too much screen time to characters we don't need. Like why isn't the main the main cast really was lacking screen time, realistically.
He lied.
Oh, brother!
This was a scene I oversaw that repelled me from watching Stranger Things Season 5 for over a month. And after finally
Understandable.
watching the entirety of the new season and all of its horrible lowlights, this particular scene might seem like a weird hill to die on, but its very inconsequentialness is what makes it such a good example. A perfect representation of what I think is the show's biggest problem, what I'm calling fairy tale dialogue. First off, 9-year-old Mary talks to her supposed best friend like she's an HR employee, and then says things like evil, nasty lies. That's jarring to hear.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Wait, 9-year-old talks like that. Nobody. So like, honestly, in the script they could have just put talk regular and just put what they want her to say. Like, you, oh my gosh, Holly, you lying, conceiving, big baby drinker, snot liquor. You gotta get out of here. He told us we gotta run or we're gonna die. Like, okay.
And not in a good way. I'm aware that there's supposed to be weirdos who have been indoctrinated by a villain, but that wouldn't make her talk like a cult leader. She's literally 9. The next thing you know, though, Holly goes full
Exactly.
Shakespeare, standing up on the bed, trying to snap them all out of the Matrix. This heightened sense of theatrics feels more like an elementary school play than a sci-fi drama where teens wash their dying mother's blood off their own hands. Some people might blame the actors' performances here, but there's no possible way to deliver these lines in a believable manner. Weirdos or not a lick of this moment felt like real.
I think I said this in the last reaction when I was the GTA reaction. Yeah, I did. People don't understand, bro. Writing will make or break a film, bro. Like if the writing is awful, the show or movie is gonna be awful. The game is gonna be awful. You can't. It's like, bro. I don't know, bro. If y'all have bad writing as an actor, you listen to what is on the script because that's your job, right? Yes, you can improv, but you can't improv 100% of a movie or a show or a game. So whatever the writers give you, that's what you got to work with. And people, usually the actors end up being the scapegoats of the whole thing, which sucks. Because people are like, oh, so and so is so bad at acting. But I mean, if it's like every movie, all right, they're probably a bad actor. But if it's like one movie and the rest of the movies in the past were bangers, you got to start looking at the script writers and pre-production. You got to be like, what y'all got going on, man? Because I don't know.
Kids interacting. Later in this video, I'm gonna try to rewrite it, but first we need to talk about why it's such a problem. Shamelessly unrealistic dialogue is an issue that has become increasingly common in popular media. I've seen some people refer to it as Disney Channelification, with Marvel becoming the poster boy for it, but when you start looking for it, you'll see it everywhere.
Are you talking about that? I know about cornbread. You just a little hungry, that's
man.
What I'm calling fairy tale dialogue is the simplification of a character to a mere caricature who only speaks in one repetitive dimension, like in a...
Yeah. See, unless it's like a character that walks by or like, I guess side character, bro. If it's like a character that has a good amount of screen time, bro, they should be able to, it should be a dynamic character when it comes to the dialogue. Like, you can't just be hitting the one-liners like, huh, that's awesome. Hey, that's rad. Hey, that's cool. Whatever, man. Like, it's no stretch. There's no value to that. What is that adding? Nothing. You could literally leave that out of the movie or show.
Fairy Tail, each character's lines are predictable, safe, and if spoken in the real world, completely absurd. Simply put, the way the characters talk in this scene, and just about every other scene in Season 5, no longer bears any resemblance to real human discourse.
Exactly.
In real life, kids just don't talk anything remotely like this. Friends don't talk like this, sons don't talk like this, parents don't talk like this, and I'm tired of needing to pretend they do. Suspension of disbelief is falling more and more into the hands of the audience rather than the creators, which is the exact opposite of how I want to watch media. I shouldn't have to cringe and wince at every weird line of dialogue just to make it through an episode. Now, some people might...
Yo, oh my gosh. Have y'all ever been watching like a show, bruh? And as soon as you start playing the scene, you just have a feeling that it's about to be embarrassing. Like, secondhand embarrassment watching the show is the worst. Like, sometimes the scene could be so embarrassing or like so cringe to me, bro, that I either completely skip it or you gotta watch the scene like this when you gotta do this, bro. You know the scene's like really embarrassing, bro. Like, oh man, that's brother.
Say I should lower my standards because this is a kids show with one of the biggest audiences in the world. First of all, it's definitely not a kids show because, and secondly, Bluey,
yeah, you shouldn't lower your standards to like make them seem better. They need to hire their work efforts, okay?
Bluey has an even bigger audience. I'm
gonna get something. I'm gonna get like something that will protect my face from all these flashbangs, bro. Cause I definitely need better lighting, and that's all it is. But that's not important right now. We reacting to something right now. That's what's important.
Wipes the floor with Stranger Things Season 5. We, the people, clearly crave good writing, and with the backlash that Stranger Things has been facing lately, I think now's a perfect time to finally speak my mind about this topic and show just how valuable believable dialogue is. But let me slow down a little. If you've come here expecting me to rant about the second screen problem, or if you expect me to pile on to the Duffer Brothers hate, take one look at my profile picture and you'll realize we don't beat dead horses on this channel. Instead, we do something I consider way more fun, which is letting metaphorical horses run wild by making up writing advice using ambiguous charts in Canva. But in order to actually offer my solution, first we have to ask how we got here and agree on what it is dialogue actually has to do.
CB dialogue, it varies from what genre the movie, show, whatever you're watching is. Because, like, obviously if it's a drama, you don't want the actors to seem like they're acting, because that's not going to make the drama good. You want them to show emotional depth, right? That's what you want. But if it's like a comedy movie or show, then obviously you're going to want them to be making funny jokes. You want the dialogue to include funny jokes, whether it's intentional, unintentional jokes in the context of the film. And honestly, for sci-fi, you probably just want like a mix of both, for real. Drama with comedy type of dialogue. That's my take.
Writing any story will come with tons of information that needs to be exposed to the audience. That includes both context, like why things in the story are the way they are, as well as the plot itself.
But like sometimes you don't need context for it to like work though. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like some dialogue just works without even having context.
Story wants to go next. This is all fine until you realize that time isn't quite on your side. The audience's attention is very limited. So how do we balance the massive amount of information with the tiny amount of time we have to expose it? How do we maximize story efficiency? You probably guessed it, dialogue. No matter how many times you might have heard the phrase show don't tell, character dialogue is without a doubt the most reliable way to reveal information, to trigger action, and to move a story forward. The reason so much exposition is done by a character straight up saying what the audience needs to hear is because nothing else comes close in terms of efficiency. For an extreme example, let's take Season 5's first...
That probably would suck though, like I do gotta cut slack partially due to the fact that everybody's like expansion. Did I just say expansions? Attention spans are very limited. Like, bro, you really got less than like a minute. Cause some people can't even watch TikToks that are 30 seconds. How you gonna get them to watch a show, a movie? Like, that's tough, man.
Episode where Robin not so subtly catches us up to speed through her radio show, The Squawk.
While we're on the subject subject of things not to do. Please steer clear of the military access control zone.
For reasons we'll soon get into.
Like that was way too. I don't know, bro. Sometimes some of the dialogue just be too bland. Like sometimes it's good to have bland because you don't want too much depth. And sometimes some lines on the dialogue and the script be too long. Like, bro, just get to the point at it. You know what I'm saying?
This dialogue very obviously still falls short. But one thing you can't say it fails at is efficiency. In a matter of minutes, we're exposed to all of the changes to Hawkins that occurred in the 18-month hiatus from where we left off from season 4.
That is true.
In other words, we are exposed to the story's context. But efficient dialogue can't just stop at context. It also has to propel the plot. When the broadcast goes faulty, we get dialogue between Dustin and Steve.
That's facts. 100%.
In this dialogue,
100%.
we get exposed to tension. Something's off with Dustin. What's his deal? Well, to find out, you have to stick around to the next scene. See how that propels the story forward with just the words the characters are speaking. We get exposed to a ton of information, both from the present context and of the future direction. Don't get me wrong though, I'm not trying to pretend this scene is remotely good. I'm more just acknowledging that it's doing the bare minimum. Propulsive dialogue is the primary motor behind just about every scene ever made. In fact, if dialogue isn't used to move things forward, then it probably won't make the final cut of the script. This is because stories have places to be and little time to waste. After all, everyone knows that it's all about the destination, not the journey. Wait a second.
That's cap. Wouldn't it be the other way around? Bro.
Okay, so as the saying actually goes, it's about the journey, not the destination. Meaning, sure, every scene needs to be propulsive, but they should also be enjoyable in their own right. It's not just about moving things forward, but doing so in a way that is also interesting and unique. To do that, we need dialogue that is memorable, quotable, and characterized.
Yes.
Steve hears that all the time, and he goes in anyway, don't you, Steve?
What the hell's wrong with you?
Here's a scene that you're probably familiar with for all the wrong reasons. It's this completely exhausted style of character.
I ain't gonna lie, when you really think about it, most dialogue that you really think of, where does it come from? The early 2000s or the 1900s movies and shows? Am I correct? Like most of the time, yes, it's some good 2010s, 2020s, but majority of the good dialogue was in past movies and shows. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm not going to say they're too limited because they still can make good dialogue and scripts. But like I said in the last reaction, bro, they're walking on eggshells. So many people are so sensitive to everything. You literally be like, put something in the script, you're like, oh, wait, but these people are going to get offended. Oh, but this big group of people are going to get offended. Oh, my God, they're going to get offended. Like, oh, my gosh. But you could definitely work around that if you have a creative enough mindset for that, for sure. So that's also that's valid, but not too valid of an excuse to make a dog shit script.
Using stupid metaphors, being weirdly on the same page, finishing each other's sentences, and yes, chiming in with quips. But when we take a step back and ask how we got here, it's once again apparent that this scene isn't completely awful. It's just trying to balance two contradictory things at once. Like the previous scene we looked at, the dialogue in this group strategy session is clearly trying to propel the story forward. There's a ton of information it needs to cover, synthesizing both what has already happened with what we can expect to happen next. In the sheer sense of exposing information and driving the story, it does honestly achieve this.
Dustin's had a few of those, like, expository sciencey monologues over
Dustin was like one of my favorite characters until the last season, bro.
It does also interweave unique character voices and stylized lines. They just happen to come in the form of entirely obnoxious quips. The funny girl has to be funny, the mean guy has to be mean, and the nerds have to be nerdy. Altogether, the dialogue creates a scene that is both propulsive and characterized. It brings us closer to the destination while still preserving.
They were talking about a whole bunch of jibber jabber, and every time they brainstormed something, it was just straight. It was just like, okay, like, are you sure about that?
Preserving the journey in the process. So is the dialogue successful? Well, only if you're willing to throw any sense of immersion out the window. Because when we look at the end product, what we're left with is that weird fairy tale speak, unnatural slop jargon that in no way resembles how real people actually talk. Every single line is safe, expected, and in the context of the doomsday scenario they're in, completely absurd. The writers were so focused on balancing efficiency with characterization that they forgot to ask if any real person would ever say anything remotely like that. And the answer is a hard no, they would not.
That's the problem.
Which is exactly how we end up with fairy tale dialogue in the first place. With each new expectation we set for dialogue, we're making it harder for the
because it becomes to a point like, yeah, they're checking off all the boxes of what we need for them as a script, but then it's like, that's not even something a human would say in the first place. So what are we talking about? And then that's when you start, the audience is kind of like confused, including me. They're like, what are they talking about? Like, what is going on, bro? Like, okay, so they're talking about brainstorming how they could defeat the villain, but why are they talking like a robot? That's what you don't say out loud, but you just be thinking it in your mind probably when you're watching it.
We just want it to be maintained. We want dialogue to be propulsive and to the point, but we also want it to be characterized and to stop and smell the roses. But we also want it to be true to life and sound like real people. Each new demand seemingly contradicts the last, making for an impossibly small target. However, if we visualize this sweet spot, we might just find a way to actually hit it. Okay, so to recap, propulsion, characterization, and believability are what I consider to be the 3 metrics to judge dialogue. The issue, though, is that despite being equally important, they aren't exactly made equal in ease of writing. Propulsion, aka advancing the plot, might be the most fundamental priority for dialogue, but it's also the most flexible requirement too, meaning while it does have to happen, it's also the easiest target to hit. With propulsion, the only limiting factor is the information that needs to be expressed, and with the intricacies of human language and interaction, that's really not much of a limit at all.
Yeah.
We can visualize it with this circle, representing the massive amount of ways a story idea can be exposed to the audience. The near infinite combinations of words,
he got a chill
and
popping up with
that
these white
characters
screens, bro.
can exchange to get a point across and carry the plot from A to B to C and so forth. As we know though, that's not all dialogue needs to do. Characterization is the next requirement. It's what elevates dialogue from pure exposition to an actual voice. It brings characters to life and makes the journey worthwhile, so it's going to be mandatory too. And just like propulsive dialogue, there are nearly countless ways to achieve it. It is a little more limited in the sense that you have to filter the lines based on the specific character speaking them, but there's still a ton of freedom in what we make the characters say. We can visualize it with this circle, slightly smaller, but no shortage of correct answers. The final requirement, believability, is not like the other two. Believability, or natural dialogue that a real person would reasonably say, is an incredibly important element of dialogue because it grounds the story and makes it digestible to a human audience. In general, when characters sound more like us, it amplifies what they have to say, making the dialogue and the story that much more powerful. The flip side, though, is that it's the most strict limiting factor. This is because real people are, quite frankly, boring and reserved.
Hi, how are you? I'm SpongeBob. I'm Sponge Nigga.
Believability is limited by mundanity, making it the smallest target to achieve. In isolation, simply hitting any of these targets isn't a difficult thing for a writer to do. The challenge only arises when you try to hit multiple targets at once. The overlap between propulsion and characterization is where fairy tale dialogue falls, and you'll note that it's a surprisingly small target. This is because the 2 metrics are kind of exclusive to each other. You can get to the point, or you can live in the moment, but it's difficult to do both. That's right, as bad as fairy tale dialogue sounds, it still takes a fair amount of effort to achieve, which might explain why so many writers seem to be complacent with hitting it. But if Stranger Things has taught us anything, it's that it's clearly not enough to settle for propulsive and characterized dialogue. It has to be believable too. As the chart hopefully makes clear though, the window for accomplishing all 3 requirements is incredibly small. Looking at it here, it almost makes sense that so much dialogue seems to suck now. I mean, how is any writer supposed to juggle 3 contradictory things at once? Well, it seems impossible until you realize Stranger Things has done it before. If you're like me, Stranger Things' latest season might have you forgetting.
Season 1. I'm playing. Season 1, 2, or 3, all of them were great. Season 4 and 5, that's when it was just like, do y'all even want to continue the show at this point? Stranger Things was one of the ones. When it first came out, it was one of the ones.
How it even got so big in the first place. So you might curiously snoop back to season 1 to see if it actually holds up after 10 years. And you might just find yourself binging the entire 8-episode season in a single day. Because yes, Stranger Things Season 1 was that good.
Yes,
what surprised me the most, though, was the stark difference in the dialogue. The characters actually sounded like people in every single scene. Based on what we've been talking about up to this point, this shouldn't make much sense. If the characters talked like people, then wouldn't the show be boring? Wouldn't it have mundane conversation and barely make any progress?
Not necessarily.
Well, as it turns out, that's just not the case at all.
God help me, I will keep these lights up until the day I die if I think there's a chance that Will's still out there.
Chill, my dudes. Chill, my dudes.
Now, get out! Get out of my house!
Do you guys feel that too? I bet half of you watching this right now are going to revisit season 1 again, because that dialogue just hits so hard. First and foremost, because this sounds like something real people would actually say, the emotion feels that much more powerful. It's incredibly memorable and characterized too, showing just how strong of a mother Joyce is and
I
how
forgot
much of a
that she
deadbeat
even
Lottie is.
dated
And it's
somebody.
effortlessly propulsive, showing Joyce's strength and resolve to continue her search for Will on her own terms. And like I said, this was the standard for every single scene in season 1. Here's a scene that, at least conceptually, compares pretty well to that scene from earlier with the kids in the fairy tale speak.
I just never got that with shows and movies. Like, how do you increase your budget, but like, it seems like y'all just losing all the good people. How you increase your budget, but your writing goes down, the plot goes down, and all the characters seem like they don't want to be there no more. Like, what do we got going on?
At their core, these two scenes have
Like season 1, they were hungry. They needed to make a name for themselves. That's what it be. When these shows and TV shows get so popular and all this money and all this success, they lose that hunger. So then they're like, we could just give them slop. They gonna eat this slop. Because when you first coming out, you gotta make that gourmet food. You gotta put your name, you gotta put yourself out there. But they lost that hunger, bro. That's why all these shows be falling off after like 3 seasons. That's literally why. I cracked the code like a nut. All right,
pretty
pause.
similar ideas. Two parties of kids in over their heads, trying to get each other on the same page. As we know though, dialogue is about the execution, not the idea, which is why these two similar scenes on paper lead to wildly different results.
Pizza Hut right now is offering any large
Another
pizza for
ad,
just
man.
$10.
Go
Just
get y'all some
download the
Pizza Hut, I
app
guess.
now.
Think we should turn back? Seriously, Dustin? You want to be a baby? Then go home already. I'm just being realistic, Lucas.
The first thing you'll notice is Dustin nervously pleading to stop the search for Will and just go back. A completely natural, rational thing for a kid his age to say in that circumstance. Right off the bat, I'm invested in the scene because it is grounded in believability. What follows is Lucas calling him a sissy. Factoring in what the kids knew in that moment, which is basically nothing, this is also a realistic response. Within these few, very natural lines, we also see characterization. Dustin is a bit cautious and thoughtful, whereas Lucas is a little more rash, showing us a glimpse into their relationship's dynamic. This just goes to show that
They all like
characterization can be subtle. Not every line has to be a mic drop or a quip. Lastly, Mike shuts them both up,
I
propelling
agree.
us to
Again.
11, and bam, the scene ends. No exposition dump necessary. Everything you need to know is in their expressions. In a 30-second scene, we see believability, characterization, and propulsion work hand in hand in hand. What ultimately separates the season 1 scene from the season 5 scene is a complete difference in priorities. Instead of starting with propulsion, then trying to make things characterized, and having believability as an afterthought, the scene from season 1 puts believability front and center. And when you think about it for all of 2 seconds, this makes complete logical sense. Since believability is the hardest target to hit, then it should be the first filter we put any dialogue
you gotta
through and
prioritize
go
that.
from there. With this new
This is
order
the
of
hardest.
operations, maybe executing dialogue doesn't have to be so hard. But as a quick disclaimer before we try to remake the scene, it's worth pointing out that there are so many problems baked into season 5 that it doesn't make much sense to just redo a single scene in isolation. However, if I'm gonna critique the scene so much, it's only fair I give it a stab myself. Plus, it lets me show off today's sponsor, Milanote, the free outlining tools we can grab. So to start,
Shout out
using
to
one of
bro.
Milanote's board
Oh, never
presets, slaughtering shocked
Alright.
to a rational discourse about the plausibility of their safety, it would lead to tears and chaos and helplessness, which
Facts.
frankly sounds a lot more impactful to watch than that HR
Like, nobody
nonsense we got
said
instead. Now that
angry.
we're aware of what any given character's rough reaction would be, we can look at what makes each
Oh,
character
he gotta
unique
use
to
it.
better help us filter their responses through their own voices. Although, if we're being honest, Holly and Derek are really the only 2 kids with any discernible traits. Now, if these weren't side character 9-year-olds, we could use something like Milanote's character relationship map to see how they all might interact,
Right.
or use their character profile to really get a feel for each character. But since we just established that they're all literal children in fight or flight, I think all we really need is their own specific natures. Holly we know is brave, Mary we can call cautious, I guess, Derek we know is blunt, Josh
Put her
I guess
with a
can be
noob.
rational, and Debbie we can call skittish. Lastly, we need to control the direction of the story. In the original, all that really happens is that they forcefully get Holly to stay. So that'll be the same direction we're striving for. With Milano's
had her
3-act
complete
structure
the
board, we
rituals.
can plan how we want the scene to escalate. The kids will feel scared but secure, then Holly will stir things up, she'll try to leave, she'll get caught, and then the story can propel to Vecna's grand plan. That wasn't so hard, especially thanks to the sponsor Milanote, which you can try out today for free using the link in this video's
shout out to
description. What we're
Milanote,
left
man.
is, at least I hope, a scene that is propulsive and characterized.
I ain't getting
yet
a
still
dime, a
sounds
penny
like
out
how
of saying
9-year-old
that.
children actually speak. I kind of took some creative
Disregard
liberties
what I
with it,
just
but
said, bro.
whatever. I just hope it sounds more like season 1 rather than season 5. One shortcoming I can notice immediately with my chart is that it operates on a yes-no scale rather than a spectrum. In other words, it doesn't really distinguish how efficiently a story's dialogue propels it, or how interesting the characterization is, or how believable the realism is. In reality, not all propulsive dialogue is made equally. I think a guy like Aaron Sorkin really shines with tight, efficient dialogue.
Yeah,
Not all characterization is made equally either.
Some characters are just better with other dialogues than others. Like, that's probably why some characters in dramas, that the main movie type is a comedy. Yes, they can do well if they're a great actor, but some actors just can't adapt. Some actors are just one-dimensional, which, as an actor, that kind of limits you to getting to land in some films and good movies. So, if you're an actor or want to be an actor, you better practice every emotion, every dialogue you can, man. No cap.
A common example for this would be Quentin Tarantino, who is known for iconic characters. And lastly, not all realism is made equally either. I think Vince Gilligan shows do this really well, and I think just about every HBO show excels at realism too. See The Sopranos or The Wire, or one of my current obsessions, The Pit. Maybe in another video I can break each of these three aspects down more, so if that sounds interesting, let me know. For now, that's all I've got. If you enjoyed, I ask that you like and subscribe.
I got you with the like and the sub. I mess with the vid. But anyways, y'all, that's probably gonna wrap up the reaction. Hey, I agree with literally majority of everything he said. Like, a lot of these films lack decent, like, normal dialogue. Sometimes they overdo it, and sometimes, most of the time, they underdo it. So if they hit those little three things that he was explaining and talking about, your film or show, it would be okay. It would be all right. Anyways, make sure y'all stay royal, stay loyal. Make sure y'all hit that like and that sub for me. But anyways, I'm gonna see y'all. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.